So you can have a copy of my name is Eve Wedderburn, and I was one of the community members asking those questions at that time. And I felt it important to respond to include in the minutes of this meeting the trust response on that evening, not only the kinds of questions that were asked.
Right, so we will record those comments. Sorry. We will record your comments.
I've got a couple of comments very briefly about the minutes. I'm representing.
Would you like that?
Yeah. I'm representing Venture Centre. I was sent a proxy vote. I was sent the 2014 minutes. I haven't had an opportunity to look at them. I don't know if that's an issue, but I think it should be noted that I haven't been able to. The information because I had a few questions about the 2014 minutes, and I remember what had been discussed last year, and that hadn't really been kind of cleared up for me in what so I had some questions about that, which may have been answered by what you said earlier, but I need time. I would have liked time to process that and consider it, and I've only just found out that there was more information than what I received from Will Hoyle sent me some information. So that's the first point. The second point is in terms of the second section of the minutes where you talk about community members' concerns being raised. There are a few areas that I thought it wasn't completely accurate. For example, where it says at the start, limited opportunity was given for the chair to invite response from other trustees or the executive to those points. I felt that there was ample opportunity for the trustees and members of the trust staff to respond to those points. And then there's the 11 points which members of the community raised and had issue with. And I feel there should be more detail to give a reflection of what the responses were from the trust to those points. In particular, as I was running the flyover, point 8, you referred to it as Flyover Cafe, and I think there's an issue there that it wasn't a Flyover Cafe. The cafe was a separate entity which was run separately from the flyover, and by putting them together, you're kind of putting together an entity that was failing and one that was doing pretty well. And there was a lot of discussion under that point 8. There was a lot of discussion, the same as Eve said, around the stables, and it would be good if the minutes reflected the whole discussion. Thank you.
The issue on the table for me is the accuracy of the minutes of the 2015 meeting. Can you hear that? Sorry, I'm obviously not very good at this. Just speaking, using the mic. So, can you hear me? Okay. So the issue is actually to do with the accuracy of the 2015 minutes. The formal business, as you'll see, recorded was stopped. I mean, I think we have no problem with recording the distinction between the Flyover Cafe and the Cultural and Arts space, and we'll make reference to that. I think it would be very difficult to have a complete description of everything that was said in that meeting. Easily here. But I've just got one other response to make, and I think in terms of the statement that the representatives of the trust didn't feel they had the opportunity to respond, is what we're trying to deal with here. I mean, if you think that is an accurate statement, we can consider that in this meeting. But I think that the record is that there wasn't an opportunity for a particular level of dialogue.
So in the discussion with the stables, we specifically asked a specific trust officer to come to the microphone, and he didn't respond. And then the trust members asked him to stop doing it. The people on the table asked him to stop doing it. So they were given, and they were asked and asked and asked, actually. So if you felt you didn't have enough opportunity to speak, it's because you sat quietly and didn't speak. We were asking you questions and you didn't answer them.
But, and we agreed that we'll record in the minutes the points we make about the responses.
That it's not accurate to say that the trust did not get enough opportunity to respond.
would say that the atmosphere of that meeting made it very difficult.
But the whole year is that difficult.
I just wanted to pick up on the point that was made about the flyover or the flyover cafe. I just wanted to pick up on the point that was made about the flyover. I remember the discussion last year, and I think the gentleman who spoke is quite correct, that I don't think the comments that were made about this year are reflected clearly. It's just, a fact is just stated. I think it was discussion about the reasons that the members of the community felt about how the lease was terminated. There was quite a bit of discussion about that, and I think that was the relevant point, and it's not reflected at all.
And I only mentioned the flyer because that's what I personally know. I think if you look at every single one of these points, you would probably have people who could argue the same issue, that there should be more detail on those points.
So can I suggest that people who do have comments, send them, we won't try to sign the minutes tonight, send them into the trust in writing. That's the only way we're going to be able to resolve that.
I have a very short point, actually, that I'd like to raise. It certainly doesn't seem to be in the minutes, and I've got a pretty good memory from last year. It's a financial question. There was somebody in the audience who raised a very good point about confusion over restricted and unrestricted funds. It seemed, according to him, that you had made a mistake and put some money which should have been in unrestricted funds, and it was labelled as restricted funds. I think the money came from a sale of either property or land, I'm not sure. Has this issue been resolved?
I can't recall the specific question. I mean, if a member can identify what those particular funds are, I'll certainly investigate it. I'm not aware that anything has been misallocated, but I'll certainly investigate if you can give me details of what those funds are.
Yes,
and the nature of the
this
transaction.
point, the point is, this point isn't in the minutes, and the person who raised it was probably, what, a middle-aged man who said he'd been through the whole set of accounts and thought that this was an issue they had to sort out, and he did seem to be somebody who was either in accountancy or something of that nature, and he said, I don't know how you're going to get out of this. I'm just hoping you have got out of it, because he mentioned a figure of, I don't know if this is accurate, and you would probably know, he mentioned a figure of 2 million. Now, if it was misallocated in the accounts, it means there's less, if you like, to use a slang term, money sloshing around for other things which might need urgent funding.
Could I just respond to that, because I think that you're right in that I do recall that there was a question, I think it was Tom who raised the question. If that's not in the minute, then it should be. I don't want to speak for Tom, but I think you asked a question. I think you asked a question, Tom, about the designation of property surpluses and asking if they should be in a restricted fund. I don't want to speak for you. Would you like to?
On page 2 of the minutes, the large paragraph, the last sentence, it says, he also questioned whether the auditors should have proposed. So what it's basically saying is, should the rent money be in a restricted fund? I can't remember what the answer was, but you minuted that I asked the question. Okay, so you may come back with a comment. Mark probably commented during the year, I can't remember.
So again, if there are any other comments on the minutes, if you could just get them in to the trust in writing, so that we can have another go. Sorry.
Could I point something out quickly?
Yes.
As far as I'm aware, you employed a company to video record the entire AGM last year. They had a pretty good camera standing on the side. So there's absolutely no reason why you yourselves can't actually find out all of these minutes for yourselves, rather than putting it onto the tables of these people who, as it is, are volunteering a lot of their time off their own backs, unpaid.
Well, the only thing I would say to that is, if we wanted to complete the verbatim record of over 2 hours of, can I call
I
it
haven't asked
conversation.
you for a verbatim record, and you know that. What I've asked you for is what has been brought up by at least 3 or 4 members of this audience here. So I don't think there's any excuse for you to try and put it back onto the members of the audience who've already done enough of their time dealing with this.
Can I just ask my team if we have the film record? So if we do, then I think that we can certainly do that.
Ravina, I think, had a question.
It's just a very short. Shall I take your mic? It's just a very short point. If we're going to be given time to consider the minutes, could we have a copy of Alan's statement, the chairman's statement, which I thought was comprehensive, but I couldn't take it all in. And also, there were things in it like, I'm not mentioned in this and you mentioned me, so I'd quite like to be able to read it. That's all. It's not a big deal, but would that be okay to have a copy of your thanks?
And does that mean that the 2014 minutes still need to be agreed, or is that they're agreed and that's not done?
I was going to add to what Alan said to you that actually I think NAMI was aware that one of the responses was that we were setting up a working group within the membership to take away and look at the 2014 minutes. So I'm sorry if you feel as the proxy that you weren't aware, but I think that NAMI was. Yes. I guess the resolution of that working group is that whilst there might be dissatisfaction about the approach, actually the minute. The view of the working group is that the minute is an accurate record of 2014, and I think the membership at large had delegated to that working group to work with my team to sort of investigate it and satisfy themselves. So unless the membership here tonight say they would like to revisit that, actually I think there is a broad acceptance amongst the members that the 2014 minute is acceptable. Hello, can I say something? Yeah, Maggie is in the group. Sorry.
I don't like these sorts of things. Maggie Tyler, and I'm representing the... Sorry about this. The Gloucester Court Reminiscence Group. Yeah, is that better? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Niles. What I wanted to say was that there was a working group which Ravina, I think, heard her name mentioned earlier, and it was Eddie Adams, Tom Fedge, myself, and Ravina, you mentioned, and Cynthia here. And I just wanted to actually raise the point that we were, Alan, you mentioned earlier, that we actually agreed to something. We didn't agree. We actually pointed out during that group meeting that we felt that member organisations hadn't been informed properly and consistently throughout the whole of this area about what was going to happen about the Constitution. And that was something that we pointed out. We didn't agree that those 2014 minutes should stand. Okay, so I just wanted to make that
One, two. Okay.
Cynthia, can I ask whether you agree with Maggie? Because I think you were at the meeting, and I certainly recall that we did all agree to close the chapter on those minutes.
Yeah, I'm a trustee, and I sat with Maggie, Eddie, Tom, Ravina on the working group to look at this. My recollection is that we agreed that the 2014 minutes were accurate, they were an accurate reflection of the meeting, but that separately from that, organizations looking back didn't actually feel that they had had enough information about the changes to the memorandum and articles of the Constitution. But we felt that was a different matter. That was something that the trust had to address through the processes, but the actual record of that meeting was correct. Maggie, that's my recollection. Okay.
Can I just add to that, just to be very clear, that in the 3 months after the last AGM, we actually held 3 workshops with the members, and in each of those workshops we went through in quite some detail with all of the members the 3 changes that had been approved at the AGM, and we sought from the membership views about if they had the opportunity to vote again, would they have supported them. And I think Alex was with me in those workshops, and for the members who attended, and I think it was probably half the membership or more over the 3 workshops, there was unanimous support that, having had the opportunity to interrogate the changes in more detail, talk to me and my team about what was proposed, actually there was widespread support for the changes. So I think we recognise that the way that had been handled prior to the 2014 AGM was poor, but I think we sought to almost redo the whole engagement process around that and satisfy ourselves that the membership would and do support the governance changes that were approved at that time. And I think you were at one of those workshops, Maggie, at least one, in second cup on Portobello Road.
I was about 15 minutes at the workshop. I was 15 minutes at the workshop. I did not hear anything about it. And I just would like to question Angela. Yes. I would like to question how many member organisations did actually get involved.
Well, I mean, I don't have the absolute number here, but I can certainly communicate that.
I would like to know.
It was probably circa 20 to 30 of the member organisations.
But actually going to a coffee cup, in Portobello Road, is that a workshop where we are actually just being shown something? And I was at a meeting for 15 minutes because I had another meeting I had to go to. I'm not aware of that being a workshop about, something which is really the core of what people are complaining about regarding the Constitution that was passed for the 2014 meeting.
I mean, all I can say is we purposefully ran that session 3 times at 3 different times of the week to give the maximum opportunity for members to attend. There was quite a lot of engagement from the members. There are people here tonight who came to those workshops. We went through in a lot of detail the 3 changes that were approved in 2014. We took a lot of time. In fact, it was the only item that we looked at in that series of, call it a workshop, call it a meeting, call it a working session. That's what we sought to do. And I'm very happy for the membership tonight to say that still doesn't feel rigorous enough and we can revisit it again. But I genuinely feel like there was a lot of interest in this and there was a lot of engagement. And actually, there seemed to be quite a lot of feedback from the membership through those 3 meetings that actually the membership was in support of what was, essentially modernisation to the Constitution.
That's one way of framing it. But you said maybe a half, maybe 60%, but actually for that kind of change, you need a 75% vote.
Yeah.
So that isn't rigorous enough, even though you've done the workshops, and even for that kind of change, you do need a 75% vote, and it should be done properly. Why not call an extraordinary general meeting to deal just with the Constitution and re-vote on that, because it doesn't seem like people are satisfied.
I mean, you're absolutely right that in terms of a change to the Constitution, it needs a special resolution. I think perhaps we ought to separate the 2 issues. One is that we had a record of a meeting that passed that special resolution by the majority. In fact, no one voted against. The 2015 minutes record the members' comments and dissatisfaction with maybe some of the process that led up to it, but the vote that was recorded in the 2014 minutes is accurately recorded. So the Constitution is, as has been passed. If the membership still want us to look at that, I mean, we don't want to spend all of our time looking at constitutional issues and governance rather than programme delivery, but of course we can look at that again. But that would have to come again to an AGM or an EGM of the Trust if we were going to change the Constitution in another way. So it can still be done, and we can still look at it again. But I I think the narrow point is, here is a record of the meetings that have happened, and the engagement is another issue as well.
Can I suggest as like a pragmatic way forward, rather than moving straight to having like an extraordinary general meeting, is that we could have another public meeting like this, where we just revisit the core aspects of what was presented and approved through that special resolution, and take views and soundings about that. Because actually, my experience with the members has been that when they've fully engaged with and understood the changes, they've been in support of them. So I don't want to create sort of an extraordinary general meeting to undo something that actually the membership at large have communicated to us that they're happy with. But it may be that we need to do a session like this where we explain in more detail to everyone beyond the membership they weren't particularly radical, the changes that we made, but I think there's not a widespread understanding of what they were.
We've got at least 3 more questions on this, so let's start.
Alan, can I just ask you, you're a very experienced chair. Does this actually feel legally right what your 2 officers are saying? It doesn't feel legally correct what they're saying. In terms of charity law.
Oh, I think as a matter of fact, it probably is correct. Whether you believe it is fair is another matter.
75%.
But at that meeting, there was no vote against it, and the meeting was quorate. So I think from that point of view, can I take the question starting at the back?
Could you clarify what the point is, the change of the Constitution?
Under charity law, we need to be specific under charity law.
I'm definitely aware of that.
What are we talking about?
We need to know exactly which part of charity law.
Hello. Right. Can we have some clarity on this vote for constitutional change? I thought the issue with the 2014 vote was that it was poorly recorded, and that the electorate of the trustees weren't informed that a 75% mandate was needed for constitutional change to be passed through. When it was discussed at last year's AGM, those points were raised, and they're in the 3rd paragraph on the 2nd page of your minutes. But if I quote that, Tom Fitch said that he expressed concerns about the amendments, blah, 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 but he thought that he voted against the proposal. It was quite clear within that meeting that the vote was poorly recorded, and had it been recorded properly, the constitutional changes would never have been made, because you would not have made that 75%. If you have figures that suggest otherwise, please produce them, but it just seems like fraud on top of fraud on top of fraud, and we need to pass this through. There was no 75%. If you have figures otherwise, please do.
Okay, I do need to respond to that. The notice of the AGM in 2014 set out the proposed changes of the Constitution as a special resolution as required under company law. It's company law rather than charity law.
Understood, carry on.
So the vote required a 75% majority of those people voting, and the minutes were quite clear in the recording that there were no votes against. There were, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, either 2 or 3 abstentions.
Well, I remember clearly that they were wrong, and it wasn't 75%. Unless you have figures otherwise. Wait. These assertions.
I'm sorry. Please allow me to respond to the question.
You're not
Please
responding.
allow me to respond. It was very clear at the meeting there were 17 votes in favour of the proposition, no votes against, and 4 abstentions. And I do recall at the meeting that the chairman of the meeting made a comment to the room. There were no votes against. So the required 75% majority was achieved at that meeting.
And these figures were queried. These figures were declared inaccurate at the meeting. What are you talking about? You're declaring the figures that have already been challenged a year ago. You've produced no new figures to say what the vote should have been recorded as, so it is a complete nonsense. It can't stand.
I'm terribly sorry. We specified at the 2014...
Wrongly!
After the count, at the meeting, we said what the vote was, and the members of the trust who were here may, I hope, recall the vote being taken. That was how the vote was, how the votes were cast, and that's how it was recorded.
Well, obviously it wasn't how to recast, or there wouldn't have been the issue last year's AGM. You're just going round in circles. What is the count after the review? You've had three meetings.
Let's take another question from Maxwell.
Can we not deal with this one?
Yes, we've dealt with it.
We haven't. Let me try and make this as simple as possible. In 2014, you recorded certain figures. In 2015, those figures were challenged.
Correct.
And we haven't had the result of that challenge.
Yes, we have.
No, we haven't.
It's unchanged.
We've heard that the minutes were broadly in line, but we still haven't heard any details about whether or not the abstain vote was a no vote, whether no votes were abstain votes, whether people knew it was 75%. And without that, all of this is a nonsense.
Can I just say that actually there was only one person, and it was Tom, at the meeting.
It only takes one.
Who said that he believed that he had voted differently to what was recorded. We, following the meeting, had recourse to the independent note taker who minuted the meeting, and they informed us that they did a count and that they asked the chairman to confirm the count and that there had been 17 votes in favour. Now, even if Tom had voted against, and even if we had recorded that incorrectly, it still wouldn't have changed the outcome. So and the worker who looked at this did have recourse to the notes of the independent minute taker. And I think, I mean, I would urge you to say that I think we could get rather caught up in the process of this, and I'm making the offer to say, would the membership and would the community like to revisit the principles of what was changed in that moment of constitutional change in a public meeting like this, and we could discuss it in more detail, and then we could take a view together whether or not we're satisfied that the constitutional changes that were adopted in 2014 can stand, or that you are proposing a different special resolution. Because my experience, sir, is, I'm sorry I don't know your name, but my experience is that the membership, when they have time to talk through together and with us the changes, the membership is supportive of the changes. So let's get a broader consensus about that, or actually, if that's not the case, then we'll bring forward a new special resolution to make different changes.
Let's have the meeting.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we'll set a meeting then. Set a meeting.
Fine. So if I
and can we have it recorded in these minutes, what those figures were from 2014? It seems just to be a catalogue of half-truths, misrepresentations in this. We could go through this document for 2 hours, really. It's 3 pages long.
We can certainly note in the minute of this meeting that you had asked for us to confirm the figures from the 2014 minutes and restate them in the minute of this meeting, absolutely.
And what's your name, please, for the minutes?
What is your name for the minutes?
Eric Price is PRYC.
So if I can move on from that point, to move to something which I think will be less controversial, I would like to pay special thanks, Cynthia, please listen to this. I'd like to pay special thanks to Cynthia Dyes for her 9 years service as a trustee. Many of you know Cynthia. She's got a long history and understanding of the people who live here and of the area. I have very much valued her contribution to the board and the various trust committees that she has served on. And I want to put on record my thanks and the board's thanks for everything that she has done, Cynthia. Mark, can I have your company secretary's report?
We had